Good evening, everyone. This is your evening news recap, your nightly news podcast on all the news that I come across throughout the day, giving you my take as somebody who aspires to be a politician in the near future. Hopefully, all you guys are doing wonderful. Hopefully, all you guys are well. Today is Monday, January 12th. I myself am doing pretty all right. Woke up with a sore throat this morning, still kind of feeling it, but we're trying to make it through, and we'll try and make it through this episode. Hopefully, all you guys are having a wonderful day so far, though. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. All the support would be greatly appreciated as we are trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by this summer. We just passed 700 subscribers. Thank you to everyone who's dropped a subscribe so far. It's truly amazing to me. Thank you, everyone, so much. And drop a subscribe if you're new. Help us reach 1,000. We're on the way to 800 now. And if you're on Substack, please also consider subscribing as well. It's $8 a month. All funds go to me. Helps me pay for the things that I need to pay for in my life, like my groceries, my clothing, all those kinds of things. With that being said, let's get into today's episode. Moving on into our news and history of news. I still don't know the right way to phrase that, but I'll figure it out one of these days. The topic we have today is a Peru landslide has killed 450 and left 3,000 missing. This is from January 12th of 1962. A massive avalanche swept through the Peruvian village of Ruronica. I'm probably pronouncing that horrifically, and I know I am. I apologize. On January 10th, killed nearly 500 residents. The slide plunged from the Huascarán, an extinct volcano and the highest mountain in the country. Witnesses said the mass of rock, mud, and ice was about 3/4 of a mile wide. The Times reported. Later estimates placed the death toll in the village of the surrounding areas of about 3,500. Of course, this is about a landslide of a volcano, and I learned about this in Spanish class last year. I really wish I could pronounce the names of these. As somebody who enjoys geography, that kind of hurt me a little bit. But hey, I got to lock in on my pronunciation. I'm not the greatest at pronouncing, Spanish style names, especially with a sore throat. That also doesn't help in my defense. But hey, I'll take blame for that one. As a whole, this was a horrific incident. I learned about it in Spanish last year, and it was definitely a really interesting one to learn about. And yeah, that's my 2 cents on that one. Anyways, let's move into the news from today. Moving on into the Trump administration segment. As we do, the first topic we have today is the Trump Department of Justice plans to investigate Jerome Powell, who is the federal chair. Federal prosecutors have opened an investigation into Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, and according to Powell, the Department of Justice served the federal chair with subpoenas and threatened criminal indictment over the testimony that he gave on the Senate about the renovations happening to the Federal Reserve buildings. Powell called it unprecedented and said that he believed this was happening due to Trump's anger over the Fed's refusal to cut interest rates. Powell said, "This is about whether the Feds will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation." Powell is one of the very few people who have, from the start of this administration, been willing to tell Trump to screw off. And that's really the kind of people that we need in these positions, not Trump yes men. Just because Trump gets to pick who runs the agency doesn't mean he gets to control it, and sadly that isn't the case with the Department of Justice, but it really should be. This administration is an absolute joke, and I hope Powell continues to stand against them, but we'll have to wait and see, of course. In other news, Trump is now claiming that he is the acting president of Venezuela. Trump posted a fake Wikipedia page on his Truth Social last night, claiming that he is now the acting president of Venezuela as of January 2026. The actual Wikipedia article does not show this. It only shows him as the president of the United States, nor is Trump the acting president of Venezuela. That is their current vice president. We have no power in that country, and Trump has to lie about it to make it seem like we do. And that's not the case, Over and over again, the more he lies about it, the more weak he seems, because everyone knows that he has no control, of course, except for MAGA, but they lack a brain. Does Trump really think he controls Venezuela? I highly doubt that. There's no way. I mean, we have no power in the country. All we did was steal their dictator, which, at the end of the day, really does nothing. Either Trump is dumb enough to believe this, which I don't think is the case, or, it's being done to prop up his propaganda for MAGA. And, I'm like 99.999% sure that is the case. this administration is an absolute joke, and the people in this country are unfortunately dumber than a sack of bricks. But hopefully we can get a better education system and get change in office fast so we can change that. Bray 2030, don't forget it. When I'm in office, I want to help contribute to making a better education system because we desperately need it. As somebody who went through public education their entire life, there's a lot of things that I didn't learn and still don't know how to do, which you should be learning in the education system, like paying taxes. Don't know how to do that. Yeah, it's interesting that I can buy stocks. I've been taught how to buy stocks by my education system, but I haven't been able to afford or learn to pay taxes. Really interesting. Wish the education system would teach you that one. In other news, Trump has announced that he regrets not ordering the National Guard to seize voting machines in 2020. Trump has come out saying that he regrets not having the National Guard seize voting machines after he lost the 2020 election. Trump was asked about the plan that he had repeatedly discussed, but never went through with in the New York Times interview, and he said, "Well, I should have." When he was asked about it, Trump went on to say, "I don't know that they are sophisticated enough. They're good warriors. I'm not sure they're sophisticated enough in the ways of the crooked Democrats and the way they cheat to figure that out." 2020 was 6 years ago, and this man is still complaining about an election that he very clearly did lose. Not to mention he got his second term in the end. He really has nothing to be upset about or complain about here. I mean, he should be glad he even got to run again. Let's not forget that Trump would be in jail right now if he wasn't the president of the United States. But hey, Trump lost the election. How many more years are we going to have to listen to this man whine and moan about it? Like, he got his second term. He has nothing else to complain about. He got what he wanted. Why is he still complaining? It is absolutely wild to me that he still wants to complain about 2020. In other news, this is a wild one, as Trump has claimed that civil rights led to white people being very badly treated. Trump has made a wild claim, saying that the civil rights movement led to white people being treated very badly. In an interview last week with the New York Times, Trump was asked if he believed that civil rights protections ultimately resulted in the discrimination of white men, to which Trump said, "Well, I think a lot of people were treated very badly. White people were very badly treated, where they did extremely well and were not invited to go into a university or a college. So I would say in that way, I think it was unfair in certain cases." Trump went on to call it reverse discrimination. This is an absolutely crazy thing to claim when this is far from being the case at all. This is really just him trying to justify racism. White people have only ever been discriminated against other white people in Western civilization. And anyone who has ever read a history book can tell you that white people are historically oppressors, historically the ones who do the discriminating. Also, for him to say that white people aren't getting into college is absolutely wild. According to census data, 54% of college students are white. The only reason that number is dropping is because more and more people of color are finally being able to afford things like college. I mean, the reason why college costs money in the first place is because people within the United States government and people within power didn't want people of color coming to college. That's why they started charging for college, because they knew that people of color wouldn't be able to afford it. It's a massive issue, and it's something that's been the case for many years at this point. It's still something that we deal with today. I myself, I'm a college student, and my tuition is insane. I will be, at the very least, $200,000 in debt by the time I finish my college degree, which is absolutely wild. That nobody should have to pay that much to go to college. White people are not being discriminated against. It's not happening at all. And um, the fact that the president is claiming to this is honestly laughable. Anyways, moving on into our ICE segment for today. ICE agents pointed a gun and threatened a pastor. A Minneapolis pastor has come out saying that federal agents handcuffed him and threatened him with a gun to his face while he stood among nonviolent protesters. Reverend Kenny Callaghan, a senior pastor at All God's Children Metropolitan Community Church, told The Advocate that he went towards the commotion Wednesday morning after hearing a group of agents were threatening a woman. When Callaghan saw the woman being harassed by the agents, he told them to stop harassing her. An agent immediately raised his gun at his face and said, "Are you afraid now?" To which Callaghan said no. Moments later, the pastor would be handcuffed and put into a black SUV and was held there against his will for 30 minutes while repeatedly being asked if he was afraid yet. So what you're telling me here is ICE pulled a gun on a citizen and a pastor and held him in a van against his will because he wasn't afraid, because that's so legal, you know. I mean, I get flamed for saying ICE is a terrorist organization, but like things like this that they do on a regular basis proves my claim, you know. They took a man against his will and continued to ask him if he was afraid while he was being held against his will, as if they were trying to terrorize him. You know, the United States is the bad place, and Trump is one of the many sources of that. You know, really, ever since Trump has started getting into politics, politics as a whole has fallen off, and the United States has really started to crumble. You know, and he's a problem that needs to be dealt with, just as ICE is a terrorist organization that needs to be removed. Anyways, moving on into our other news segment today, where we have around 3 topics to round out today's episode. Iran has killed hundreds of protesters and has arrested thousands. Protests in Iran have erupted over the past 24 hours and have led to the death of over 648 people, according to a Norway-based human rights group. The group also warns the death toll could be even higher. Thousands of protesters have also been arrested on top of this. According to Trump, the United States is considering intervening in this. It's unclear what is actively going on in the country, though, as there is a massive blackout across it and no news agencies are able to report. Good luck to everyone in Iran or Iran. Sorry. You know, I'm sorry that American oppression and Western oppression has led to the state for your country for so long. You know, it's really, really unfortunate. But that's what happens when, you know, we have people like Trump and all these other leaders say that they need to control the country, right? It's kind of ironic that Trump wants to protect protesters in, you know, Iran, when from being killed by their own government, when we have peaceful protesters being killed by our own government here, and he calls them radical left Democrats. You know, truly a unifier of the people. Am I right? Uh, we have issues here that need to be dealt with. Truly, you know, and as unfortunate as what is happening in Iran is unfortunate, we got to deal with the issues that we have here in this country. You know, our government is killing people here, and nothing is being done about it. They're killing our own citizens, and really nothing is being done about it. And something needs to be changed here. You know, the fact of the matter is, as soon as ICE killed Renee Nicole Good, they should have been shut down as an agency, plain and simple. And the fact that they haven't been is an issue. In other news, Republican Senator Tom Tillis has moved to block all Federal Reserve nominations. Republican Senator Tom Tillis has announced that he will block all nominees, including chair of the Federal Reserve, from the Trump administration, which complicates the Trump administration's ability to replace Powell, whose term does expire in May, but he can stay as governor until 2028, though he has not indicated any goal to do so. Till said, if there were any remaining doubt whether advisors within the Trump administration are actively pushing to end the independence of the Federal Reserve, there should now be none. It is now the independence and the credibility of the Department of Justice that are in question. I will oppose confirmation of any nominee for the Fed, including